This is lesson 3 of AZ-900. The title of this lesson is Cloud Service Types. In this lesson, I will introduce you to cloud service types. You will learn how each cloud service type determines the flexibility you will have with managing and configuring resources. You will understand how the shared responsibility model applies to each cloud service type and about various use cases for each cloud service type. After completing this lesson, you will be able to describe infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. You will also be able to describe the shared responsibility model, and finally, you will be able to identify appropriate use cases for each cloud service. There are three types of cloud. They are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Let us examine them one after another. Infrastructure as a service is the most basic category of public cloud. With infrastructure as a service, you rent IT infrastructure like virtual machines, storage, networks, operating systems from a cloud provider. Infrastructure as a service is an instant computing infrastructure provisioned and managed over the internet. You can quickly scale up and down with demand and pay only for what you use. Infrastructure as a service helps you to avoid expense and complexity of buying and managing your own physical servers and other data center infrastructure. Each resource is offered as a separate commercial service component, and you only need to rent a particular one for as long as you need it. The cloud computing service provider manages the infrastructure while you purchase, install, configure, and manage your own software, operating system, middleware, and applications. Infrastructure as a service is the most flexible category of cloud services as it provides you the maximum amount of control for your cloud resources. In an infrastructure as a service model, the cloud provider is responsible for maintaining the hardware, network connectivity, and physical security. You are responsible for everything else, from operating system installation to configuration to maintenance to network configuration. If there's a need for you to install a database inside any of the infrastructure as a service, it's your responsibility to do that. And you can also configure storage. With infrastructure as a service, you are essentially renting the hardware in a cloud data center. But what you do with that hardware is up to you. A good example of infrastructure as a service in Azure is Azure Virtual Machine. Infrastructure as a service comes with a lot of advantages, but I will mention just 7. 1. It eliminates capital expense and reduces ongoing cost. Infrastructure as a service sidesteps the upfront expense of setting up and managing an on-site data center, thereby making it an economical option for startups and businesses that want to test new ideas. 2. It improves business continuity and disaster recovery. Achieving high availability, business continuity, and disaster recovery is expensive since it requires a significant amount of technology and staff. But with the right service level agreements in place, infrastructure as a service can reduce this cost and access applications and data as usual during a disaster or outage. 3. You can innovate rapidly. As soon as you have decided to launch a new product or initiative, The necessary computing infrastructure can be ready in minutes or hours rather than the days or weeks and sometimes months it could take to set up internally. 4. It responds quicker to shifting business solutions. Infrastructure as a service enables you to quickly scale up resources to accommodate spikes in demand for your application during the holiday, for example. Then scale resource back down again when activity decreases to save money. 5. It helps you to focus on your core business. Infrastructure as a service frees up your team to focus on your organization's core business rather than on IT infrastructure. 6. It increases stability, reliability, and supportability. With infrastructure as a service, there is no need to maintain and upgrade software and hardware or troubleshoot equipment problems. With the appropriate agreements in place, the service provider assures that your infrastructure is reliable and meets SLAs. 7. It provides better security. With the appropriate service agreement, a cloud service provider can provide security for your applications and data that may be better than what you can attain in-house. Platform as a service refers to cloud computing services that supply an on-demand environment for developing, testing, delivering, and managing software applications. Platform as a service is designed to make it easier for developers to quickly create applications like web applications, mobile applications, and so on, without worrying about setting up or managing the underlying infrastructure of servers, storage, network, and databases needed for development. Like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service includes infrastructures like servers, storage, and networking, but also middleware, development tools, business intelligence services, database management systems, and more. Platform as a service is designed to support the complete application lifecycle, like building, testing, deploying, managing, and updating. Platform as a service allows you to avoid the capital expenses and complexity of buying and managing software licenses, the underlying application infrastructure and middleware of the development tools, and other resources. You manage the applications and services you develop, and the cloud service provider typically manages everything else. By delivering infrastructure as a service, platform as a service offers the same advantages as infrastructure as a service, but its additional features like development tools and other business tools gives you more advantages. Here are the 6 advantages of platform as a service. 1. Platform as a service cuts coding time. Platform as a service development tools can cut the time it takes to code new applications with pre-coded application components built into the platform, such as software libraries, workflow, directory services, security features, search, and so on. 2. Platform as a service add development capabilities without adding staff. Platform as a service component can give your development team new capabilities without you needing to add staff having the required skills. 3. You can develop for multiple platforms more easily. Some service providers give you development options that support multiple platforms, such as computers, mobile devices, and browsers, thereby making cross-platform applications development quicker and easier. 4. You can use sophisticated tools affordably. A pay-as-you-go model makes it possible for individuals or organizations to use sophisticated development software like business intelligence and analytics tools that you will not otherwise be able to access or afford to purchase. 5. Platform as a service support geographically distributed development teams. Because the development environment is accessed over the internet, development teams can work together on projects even when team members are in remote locations. 6. You can efficiently manage the application lifecycle. Platform as a service provides all of the capabilities that you need to support the complete application lifecycle, like building, testing, deploying, managing, and updating within the same integrated environment. Software as a service is a method for delivering software applications over the internet on demand and typically on a subscription basis. With software as a service, cloud service providers host and manage the application software and underlying infrastructure and handle any maintenance like software upgrades and security patching. Users connect with the application over the internet, usually by a web browser on their phone, tablet, or PC. Software as a service allows users to connect to and use cloud-based applications over the internet. Common examples are email, calendaring, and office tools. Software as a service provides a complete software solution that you purchase on a pay-as-you-go basis from a cloud service provider. You rent the use of an application for your organization, and your users connect to it over the internet, usually with a web browser. All of the underlying infrastructures, middleware, application software, and application data are located in the cloud service provider data center. The service provider manages the hardware and software, and with the appropriate service level agreement, will ensure the availability and security of the application and your data as well. Software as a service allows your organization to get quickly up and running with an application at minimal upfront cost. If you have used a web-based email services such as Gmail, Hotmail, or Yahoo Mail, then you have already used a form of software as a service. With these commercial services, you log into your account over the internet, often from a web browser. The email software is located on the service provider's network, and your messages are stored there as well. You can access your email and stored messages from a web browser using any computer or internet connected device. The previous example are free commercial services for personal use. For organizational use, you can rent productivity solutions like Microsoft 365 with numerous applications such as email, collaborations, and calendaring, and sophisticated business applications. You pay for the use of these applications by subscription or according to the level of use. Here are a few benefits of software as a service. Number one, you gain access to sophisticated applications. To provide software as a service applications to users, you don't need to purchase, install, update, or maintain any hardware, middleware, or software. Software as a service makes even sophisticated enterprise applications, such as customer relationship management and enterprise resource planning, affordable for organizations that lack the resources to buy, deploy, and manage the required infrastructure and software themselves. 2. You pay only for what you use. You may also save money because many software as a service allows you to adjust the number of software as a service seats, build up and down on a monthly basis. 3. Client software not required. Users can run most software as a service apps directly from their web browser without needing to download and install any software. Although some applications require plugins, this means that you don't need to purchase and install special software for your users. 4. You can mobilize your workforce easily. Software as a service makes it easy to mobilize your workforce because users can access software as a service applications and data from any internet connected computer or mobile devices. You don't need to worry about developing applications to run on different types of computers and devices because the service provider has already done so. In addition, you don't need to bring special expertise on board to manage the security issues inherent in mobile computing. A carefully chosen software as a service provider will ensure the security of your data regardless of the type of device consuming it. 5. You can access app data from anywhere. With data stored in the cloud, users can access their information from any internet connected computer or mobile device. And when applications data is stored in the cloud, no data is lost if a user's computer or device fails. You may have heard of the shared responsibility model, but you may not understand what it means or how it impacts cloud computing. This diagram highlights how the shared responsibility model informs who is responsible for what, depending on the cloud service type. Let us start with traditional corporate data center. The company is responsible for maintaining the physical space, ensuring security, and maintaining or replacing the servers if anything happens. The IT department is responsible for maintaining all the infrastructure and software needed to keep the data center up and running. They are also likely to be responsible for keeping all systems patched and on the correct version. With the shared responsibility model, these responsibilities get shared between the cloud providers and the consumer. Physical security, power, cooling, and network connectivity are the responsibility of the cloud provider. The consumer isn't collocated with the data center, so it would not make sense for the consumer to have any of those responsibilities. At the same time, the consumer is responsible for the data and the information stored in the cloud. The consumer is also responsible for the access security, meaning that you only give access to those who need it. Then, for some things, the responsibility depends on the situation. If you are using a cloud SQL database, the cloud provider will be responsible for maintaining the actual database. However, you are still responsible for the data that gets ingested into the database. If you deploy the virtual machine and installed an SQL database on it, you will be responsible for database patches and updates, as well as maintaining the data and information stored in the database. With an on-premises data center, you are responsible for everything. With cloud computing, those responsibilities shift. The shared responsibility model is heavily tied into the cloud service types, like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Infrastructure as a service places the most responsibility on the consumer, with the cloud provider being responsible for the basic of the physical security, power, and connectivity. On the other end of the spectrum, software as a service places most of the responsibility with the cloud provider. Platform as a service, being a middle ground between infrastructure as a service and software as a service, rests somewhere in the middle and evenly distribute responsibility between the cloud provider and the consumer. When using a cloud provider, you will always be responsible for the information and data stored in the cloud, the devices that are allowed to connect to the cloud, like the cell phones, computers, and so on. You are also responsible for the accounts and identities of the people, services, and devices within your organization. The cloud provider is always responsible for the physical data center, the physical network, and the physical host. Your service model will now determine the responsibility for things like operating systems, network controls, applications, identities, and infrastructures. In this lesson, you have learned about the cloud service types and some common scenarios of each type. You also reinforce how the shared responsibility model determines your responsibilities with different cloud service types. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing to this channel. Please, let me know what you think in the comment section. And do not forget to leave a like and share this video. See you in the next one.